Myth of Jason and the Argonauts. For well over 3 millennia, the story of Jason and his fellow Argonauts has enthralled the world. Jason's quest to get the fabled Golden Fleece and bring it back to his homeland is a fabulous story of grit, compassion and revenge. Over the centuries, many versions have been recorded, but the essence of the story remains the same, an adventure of epic proportions. Although it is believed that the story was firstly told in about 1300 BC, the most authentic and comprehensive version comes much later in the 3rd century BC from Apollonius, head librarian at Alexandria. His account ends, however, before the return of Jason to Iolcus. Hereafter, much of the story is culled from common tales. Let us embark on that fantastic and perilous voyage with Jason and his friends to faraway lands, chance upon fabulous beings and triumphant return. Discover the myth of Jason and the Argonauts. The early story. The myth says that in the land of Iolcus, the modern city of Volos, there lived Pelias and his half-brother Aeson, born of the same mother Tyro, but of different fathers, Pelias of god Poseidon and Aeson of Creusa, who was the king of Iolcus. After the death of Creusa, Pelias usurped the throne from Aeson, the rightful heir, and had him imprisoned. His plan was to murder all of the relatives of Aeson and even banish his twin brother Neleus. In despair over Aeson's situation, his wife Alcimede died, but before she had already secretly given birth to the son of Aeson, named Jason. Fearing Pelias would also kill the boy, Jason was sent away to Mount Pelion, to live with the centaur Chiron, a strange creature half-man half-horse. Centaur Chiron became his tutor and Jason grew up to be a fine young man. Meanwhile, in Iolcus, Pelias, still fearing he would lose his kingdom, approached the oracle at Delphi and was told to beware of a man with one sandal. Unknown to Pelias, this was going to be goddess Hera's revenge. Many years ago he had angered Hera by committing the despicable act of killing his stepmother Sidero at the goddess's altar and by prohibiting the people from worshipping the goddess. Hera had vowed to avenge herself such ignominy, and she chose to do this through Jason. When Hera became 20 years old, Jason set out to reclaim the throne and kingdom of Iolcus from his uncle. While he was walking to Iolcus, across the river Inaros, Jason came across an old woman trying to cross over to the other side. Being a good-natured young man, Jason helped the woman across, but the water drew away one of his sandals. The old woman thanked him and Jason continued on his journey unaware that he had helped Hera, queen of the gods, who had disguised herself into an old woman as part of her plan to punish Pelias, this arrogant mortal. Hera knew of his quest, but little did Jason know of the gods' participation in it. At Iolcus, a celebration was being held to honor the sea god Poseidon, Pelias' father. Jason's arrival and his claim to the throne shocked Pelias, who started seeing the old prophecy come true. Here was the man with one sandal. To get rid of this dangerous stranger, Pelias agreed to abdicate the throne only if Jason brought him the Golden Fleece from the faraway land of Colchis, thought to be an impossible task. He was sure that Jason would never return and that he would remain king of Iolcus forever. The story of the Golden Fleece. Well before the time of Jason, there lived 2 children, the boy Phrixus and his sister Hel, who were born of the union of King Aeetes of Colchis and the cloud goddess Nephele. However, the king was seduced by the queen of Thebes, Ino, and took her for his second wife. Ino, being jealous of his children, tricked Athamas into sacrificing them to the gods, as a sign of appeasement to end the long famine that was ruining their land. All of a sudden, during the sacrifice, a winged creature with a golden fleece appeared and took the two children away on its back to the faraway land of Colchis. While flying over the sea, tragically Hel fell off the creature's back and drowned. The sea where Hel fell was named Hellespont after her. The creature carried Phrixus safely to Colchis, where he later married the daughter of King Aeetes, sacrificed the creature to the gods and offered the king the Golden Fleece to give thanks for his hospitality. Sometime later, King Aeetes happened to hear a prophecy that not only foretold the loss of his kingdom to a stranger wishing to steal the Golden Fleece but also a betrayal by some member of his family. Aeetes killed Phrixus because he believed that he was the stranger man of the prophecy and nailed the Golden Fleece to a tree. He then had the tree and the Golden Fleece guarded by two fire-breathing, bronze-hoofed bulls, known as the Kalkuri, and a dragon, to prevent anyone from stealing the fleece. Preparation for the journey. Jason understood that the journey to Colchis would be long and arduous. He knew that he would need a strong and swift vessel to make such a long trip. Only one man in the land could build him such a craft, Argos, who was famous for his skill as a shipwright. Argos readily complied with his request and, with the help of goddess Athena, they built the largest and sturdiest ship the ancient Greeks had ever seen, a ship that could withstand the ravages of the open sea. Built of oak and pine and over 22 meters in length, the ship had 50 oars and a low draft that allowed her to approach shallow waters without floundering. The construction was such that the mast, the rudder, the anchor and the oars could be removed and the ship then hauled ashore on cylindrical logs. This was significant, since it would prevent the ship from being destroyed or stolen. As a gift from Zeus, Jason received the Dodona, a piece of speaking timber from the god's enchanted forest which was affixed to the prow. The Dodona had important roles to play, as an oracle offering the seafarers guidance on the best course of action and as a compass. The Dodona was oriented north and the ship's rudder, south, to help in navigation. The imaginary line that extended from the Dodona to the rudder had coordinates aligned with the stars above, helping Jason plot the ship's course with precision. The ship was named Argo after its builder and the crew was the Argonauts. The crew. When the ship was ready, Jason asked the strongest Greek men to accompany him in his journey, and in fact the prospect of a great adventure brought many to sail with him. Numbering 50, the list of heroes was astounding. There were the most famous and brave men of all over Greece, all mighty fighters, and some of them had also other skills. Among the Argonauts, we discern Hercules, who was renowned for his strength and agility, Castor and Polydeuces, brothers, boxers and horse tamers, Orpheus, skilled in playing excellent music with his lyre, Argos, the shipwright, and lots of others legendary men. Without much further ado, the heroes cast off and set sail for the inevitable, their death or glory. Adventures on the way. The Argonauts started their trip with feelings of joy and enthusiasm. They were only seeking for some excitement and wanted to experience new ways to see the world around them. They thought it was just a usual journey and didn't know that this journey would change the life of most of them. They had no idea about the adventures and horrible things to come, nor did they know that some would never return back. Landing on Lemnos. For a long time, the island of Lemnos had been inhabited only by women, and it was there that the Argo first weighed anchor. These women had provoked the wrath of goddess Aphrodite for not worshipping her, and as a sign of vengeance she had cursed them with horrible body odor. Unable to bear the awful stench, their husbands had deserted them to this isolate island. Humiliated and furious for their deplorable condition, the women had murdered every male on the island. There they lived with their queen Aeetes until the day Jason and his Argonauts arrived. The Argonauts were welcomed with open arms and made babies with these women. Jason himself fathered twin sons born of Queen Aeetes on the land of the Dolions. A few years went by and the Argonauts realized that they had to go on with their trip. The Argo sailed from Lemnos and crossed Hellespont, landing at Propontis to replenish their supplies. This was the home of the Dolions and ruled over by King Cyzicus, a kind and noble man who greeted the Argonauts warmly. While the Argonauts were gathering supplies, they were attacked by Giganese, earthborn monsters with 6 arms. King Cyzicus had forgotten to warn Jason about these monsters, who now attempted to destroy the Argo and kill the handful guarding it. However, the fearless and mighty warrior Hercules was one of the men guarding the ship, repelling the monsters until Jason and the other Argonauts returned. Together they killed the monsters and took to the sea again, but in the dark of the night, a twist of fate brought them back to the land of the Dolions. King Cyzicus, unable to recognize his friends, the Argonauts, thought them to be marauders and attacked them with his men. In the confusion that ensued, King Cyzicus was killed. In the dawn, both sides realized their mistake and with heavy hearts held a grand funeral for the king. The Dolions gave the Argonauts a warm send-off, and soon the heroes were sailing along the coast of Mysia. Hercules, realizing he had broken his oar, went ashore with his squire Hylas to make an oar from the woods. While Hercules was at work, Hylas went to fetch water but was bewitched by a water nymph and followed her into the water. Hercules, heartbroken for not being able to find Hylas, refused to accompany the rest of the men on their quest. Some wanted to leave him behind, but most wished to wait for him, since Hercules was an invaluable asset to the team. The situation aboard the Argo soon became mutinous, but Glaucus, a minor sea god, appeared and calmed them all. He told the Argonauts that it was the will of the gods that Hercules stays there and goes on to complete other tasks. The Argo put out to sea again, leaving behind Polyphemus to assist the mighty Hercules in his mission. The fight with Amycus. A few days later, the Argonauts approached the land of King Amycus, ruler of the tribe Bebricus. He had a strange quirk to challenge every stranger he met to a fistfight. Catching sight of the Argonauts, he challenged them, and Polydeuces, the skilled boxer, took it up and, after a difficult fight, managed to kill Amycus. All hell broke loose as the Bebryces attacked the Argonauts to avenge their king, but that was not to be. They were comprehensively driven back, and Jason and his friends once again sailed for their destination. Meeting Pynos. The Argonauts were beyond a strange sight after passing the Bosporus and reaching Thrace. An old blind man who had sat down to his meal was attacked by two winged creatures that appeared from nowhere and started tormenting him and desecrating his food. Unable to bear this vagary of fate, Jason and his friends ran to help the man and chased away the creatures. To thank Jason, the old man told him that his name was Phineas and that he had once been a seer. However, he had divulged too many of Zeus' secrets and the god had cursed him, taking his vision. To further torment him, Zeus had sent the Harpies, the two winged creatures that the Argonauts had earlier seen, to despoil his food every time he tried to eat. Hearing of Jason's quest, Phineas agreed to tell the Argonauts what lay ahead, but on one condition: Jason and his friends should help him get rid of the Harpies. Aeetes and Calais, who were amongst the Argonauts, were children of Boreas, the god of the north wind, and they could fly. It fell upon them to rid Phineas of the Harpies. They lay in wait to kill the Harpies, but Iris, sister to the two creatures, intervened, vowing that the creatures would never bother the old man again. Phineas thanked the Argonauts for their help and told them that the next task of their voyage would be very dangerous. In order to cross the Symplegades which lay ahead, they must release a dove to see if she has safe passage between these two gigantic rocks. The Symplegades. The Argonauts were unable to comprehend the gravity of Phineas' warning. Approaching the Symplegades, they were appalled at what laid in their path. Separated by a narrow strait, the Symplegades were two gigantic rocks which constantly clashed against each other, seldom letting anything pass between them. Heeding Phineas' words, Jason let loose a white dove. With bated breath, the Argonauts waited to see if she would have a safe passage through the rocks. Luck favored them as the dove flew through without mishap. The Argonauts, ecstatic that they too could be allowed to pass through safely, set forth towards the clashing rocks. However, the Argo just about managed to scrape through. As the ship pulled clear, the rocks started closing in on it, but goddess Athena appeared and held the cliffs apart. The Argo was now safe in the calm waters of the Axinus Pontus. The Stymphalian birds. Another misfortune came to the Argonauts since Typhus died. The navigator, asleep at the helm, had fallen into the sea. Thereafter, the Argonauts would almost have a fight with the Amazons, but Zeus sent favorable winds which took them away from the land of the warrior women. While nearing the deserted island of Ares, the Argonauts were suddenly attacked by the Stymphalian birds which had lethal, bronze-tipped feathers. Being the sacred birds of the god of war, the birds could only be driven away, not killed. Fortunately, one amongst the Argonauts recalled how Hercules had once encountered these birds and driven them away by making loud noises.